616 horsepower, pump gas, 9,000 RPM redline, dual overhead cams on a V8 nobody saw coming. It's 1965. Ford's engineers just built the most advanced engine NASCAR had ever seen. It was faster than the Hemi, more sophisticated than anything Detroit had ever produced. It would have changed racing forever. NASCAR took one look at it and banned it before it ever turned a lap. But here's the thing about Ford. When you tell them no, they don't go home, they go to war. Let's rewind to 1964. NASCAR is America's horsepower coliseum. Ford and Chrysler are locked in an all-out war for supremacy, and Ford is losing badly. Chrysler just dropped the 426 Hemi into their race cars, and it's absolutely demolishing everything on the track. We're talking 25 wins out of 40 races in the 64 season. Ford's teams couldn't keep up. Plymouth and Dodge were untouchable. The Hemi wasn't just winning, it was humiliating Ford in front of the entire country. And inside Ford's racing division in Dearborn, that didn't sit well at all. Ford had the 427 FE, a solid, proven side-oiler V8, tough as nails, plenty of torque. But compared to the Hemi's raw brutality, it wasn't enough. So the orders came down from the top. Beat the Hemi, whatever it takes. We don't care how you do it, just do it. Ford's engineers looked at that 427 block and asked themselves one question. What if we stopped playing by the old rules? What if we didn't just build a better engine? What if we built the future? In less than 100 days, Ford Racing turned that 427 side-oiler into something that looked like it came from another decade. They called it the 427 SOHC, single overhead cam per bank. The rest of the world? They called it the Cammer. Here's what made it terrifying. Most American V8s at the time used push rods. Simple, cheap, effective, but limited. You could only spin them so fast before the valve train started floating and the engine ate itself. Ford said forget that. They engineered a chain-driven single overhead cam setup for each cylinder head. That chain was over 6 feet long, longer than some engines are wide. It was a masterpiece of precision engineering. The result? 616 horsepower on pump gas, nearly 700 in full race trim, and it could reliably scream to 9,000 RPM, something that seemed impossible for a big block V8 in 1965. The Hemi made power through brute displacement and massive airflow. It was a sledgehammer. The Cammer was a scalpel. It revved like a Ferrari, hit like a freight train, and didn't break. Ford didn't build this engine for marketing. They built it for vengeance. And when NASCAR got wind of what was coming, they panicked. When NASCAR officials got their hands on the technical specs for the 427 SOHC, alarms went off immediately. They knew exactly what this thing would do on a superspeedway. It would obliterate the field. Now, NASCAR's rulebook said you could only race engines that were available in production cars to the public. Ford was ready for that. They'd planned to build the required number. The engine was ready to go. But here's where things got political. Chrysler, still riding high on their Hemi dominance, complained loudly. They argued the Cammer wasn't a production engine because it was too exotic, too specialized. Bill France, NASCAR's founder, listened. And in early 1965, NASCAR handed down the verdict. The 427 SOHC was banned from competition, effective immediately. Ford protested. They'd followed the rules. They'd done everything right. Didn't matter. The official excuse? Not production-based enough? The real reason? This engine was so advanced, so powerful, that it would have made every other car on the grid obsolete overnight. And NASCAR couldn't afford that kind of imbalance. Ford didn't break the rules. They bent physics, and NASCAR couldn't handle it. So what did Ford do when NASCAR slammed the door in their face? They walked out and opened a bigger one. Ford backed away from NASCAR. If the sanctioning body didn't want their innovation, fine. They'd take their fight elsewhere. But they didn't just quit racing. They got creative. Ford quietly started shipping 427 SOHC engines to privateers, independent racers, and drag strip legends who had no love for NASCAR's politics. Names like Connie Coletta, Gas Ronda, and Pete Robinson started dropping Cammers into Mustangs, Fairlanes, and Top Fuel dragsters. And within weeks, They were winning everything. NHRA events, match races, illegal street showdowns. Anywhere the 427 SOHC showed up, it dominated. Ford couldn't officially sponsor these efforts, but they funded them through back channels, supplied parts, and watched with satisfaction as their banned engine became a legend on every quarter mile in America. The Camry didn't just win races, it rewrote the record books. Top fuel dragsters running Camrys were consistently running low sevens and setting records that stood for years. Match race promoters knew that if you wanted to pack the stands, you brought in a Camry car. Ford had been humiliated on the NASCAR circuit, but on the drag strip, they became legends. NASCAR banned it on Sunday. Ford made them regret it by Monday. The Camry became the outlaw king, too fast for the establishment, but perfect for everyone who didn't care about playing nice. And it earned a new nickname in the process, the engine NASCAR feared. But here's where the story gets really interesting, because the 427 SOHC didn't just dominate drag racing and then fade away. It became something else entirely, a legend that refused to die. Decades later, street rodders hunt for them like buried treasure. Original blocks sell for six figures at auction, sometimes more. Engine builders still study its cam drive system as a case study in precision engineering. And the Camry community? They're obsessed. Swap meets, online forums, restoration projects that take years. There's an entire underground culture built around this engine that NASCAR tried to erase. But the legacy goes even deeper than collectors and drag racers. Ford's experiment with overhead cam technology on a production V8 didn't end with the Camry. It planted seeds. Fast forward to the modern era. The 5.0 Coyote engine that powers today's Mustang GT, dual overhead cams, high revving, sophisticated valve train. The 5.2 Predator in the GT 500, same DNA, just evolved over 60 years. Ford learned something crucial in 1965. You don't win by making engines bigger, you win by making them smarter. The 427 SOHC proved that American V8s could be as advanced as anything Europe was building. And in 1965, that was a radical idea that scared the establishment. NASCAR tried to bury it completely. They thought if they banned it fast enough, it would just disappear into obscurity. But the aftermarket kept it alive. The drag racers kept it alive. And the gearheads who refused to forget kept telling its story. Because here's the truth they didn't understand. You can ban an engine, but you can't ban an idea. And you definitely can't ban a grudge. For years after the ban, Ford didn't talk much about the 427 SOHC in their official marketing. NASCAR never reversed the decision, never even reconsidered it. The engine became a footnote in racing textbooks, a what if that never got its moment on the big stage. But among enthusiasts, among the people who actually turned wrenches and lived for horsepower, the Camry became something different. A ghost story, the engine that was too good, the innovation that threatened the establishment so badly, they had to make it disappear before it ever proved what it could do. And that's what makes it legendary. Not what it accomplished, but what it was never allowed to accomplish. Every time someone fires up a restored 427 SOHC at a car show, every time that 6-foot cam chain whirs to life and that V8 screams past 8,000 RPM, it's not just nostalgia, it's a middle finger to the people who said no. It's a reminder that innovation doesn't ask for permission. And it's proof that sometimes the greatest racing stories aren't about who crossed the finish line first. They're about who refused to quit when the race was canceled. They tried to erase it. NASCAR tried to pretend it never existed. But Ford had other plans. And 60 years later, we're still talking about it, still building them, still racing them, still wondering what could have been. The 427 SOHC didn't win a single NASCAR race, but it won something better. It became immortal. If you thought this was wild, you haven't seen anything yet. Because while Ford's Camry never made it to the track, there was another trick that did. A loophole so clever, so perfectly hidden, that NASCAR didn't catch it until cars were already crossing the finish line. And when they finally figured it out, the damage was already done. I'm talking about the banned tech that actually worked, the one they couldn't stop in time. That story's up next. Hit that link on screen. And if you're not subscribed yet, now's the time. We're just getting started with the wildest engineering battles NASCAR tried to bury. See you in the next one.